Here's the blunt starting point. The story of Xi Jinping's family wealth doesn't sit in accounts under his name. It shows up in filings tied to relatives, most visibly his elder sister Qi Caoqiao and her husband Deng Jiagui. And then, as his rise accelerated, those names begin to fade from public records. To see how that happens, you have to walk through the 2000s, when China's private sector was exploding and well-connected investors were moving fast. Corporate records from that era, China's industrial and commercial registries, and Hong Kong company filings show Qi and Deng taking positions in real estate and resource-linked firms, the sort of businesses that thrived on access to land and approvals. It mattered because that's where opaque relationships with the state could turn a permit into a windfall. In June 2012, Bloomberg pulled these filings together and published one of the first comprehensive snapshots. Based on Chinese corporate records they reviewed, the report estimated that companies in which Xi's relatives had stakes held assets totaling about $376 million at the time. The holdings it described weren't exotic. They were in local property ventures and rare earth-related businesses, sectors heavily shaped by policy and access. After late 2012, something shifts. The names begin dropping off share registers. Corporate cards show resignations. Equity migrates to newly named owners. That doesn't prove wrongdoing. It does show that as Xi's public profile rose and his anti-corruption drive launched, the family's exposure inside visible records shrank. You can see it in the cadence of changes, the flurry of equity transfers, the tidy re-registration of directors, the disappearance of familiar surnames from public databases. The offshore layer appears earlier than many realize. In 2014, the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists published its Offshore Leaks database covering British Virgin Islands incorporations. And entries there list Deng Jiagui as an officer and shareholder of BVI entities set up in 2004. Those records aren't gossip columns. They're corporate registry cards showing names, roles, and incorporation dates. The next turn in the chronology is the quietest and the most telling. After 2012, you see fewer new filings with the family names, and more updates that look like tidying up. Resignations recorded, stakes transferred, companies wound down or renamed. Reporters who revisited the records in the years after the Bloomberg piece found that the public footprints got lighter, not because the paper vanished altogether, but because the roles changed in ways that put fewer headlines on the page. And that is the hinge of the untold wealth story. It isn't a missing vault we need to break open. It's a culture of secrecy that makes ordinary records, and a few leak archives that still name names, the only map the public has. In a country where leadership families are shielded by law, by custom, and by a censorship apparatus that overwhelms search results and erases posts, secrecy blocks public scrutiny of Xi's family assets. So we end where we began, with the hinge of the story. This isn't about an alleged secret vault in a basement. It's about a structure that keeps the vault design proprietary. What we have is a trail of filings that point to Qi Caoqiao and Deng Jiagui, documented by Bloomberg in 2012 in the mainland registries, and by ICIJ in 2014 in offshore incorporation logs, and a political environment that refuses to let the next logical questions be answered in public.